Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Hope had always believed that love could be measured in the smallest of things. The way Liam folded her laundry without asking, the quiet mornings when he brewed coffee strong enough to gently wake her, the note he left on the bathroom mirror that simply read, "You are my favorite thought." She kept those notes in a shoebox under her bed, a secret archive of affection. On the morning of what was meant to be the most wonderful day of her life, she stood in front of the full-length mirror in the bridal suite, veil pinned crookedly, and remembered the box was still at home. She had forgotten to carry the evidence of their love with her. The outfit was ivory silk cut on the bias, so it moved like water as she walked. Her mother had cried as the final fitting was completed, claiming hope resembled moonlight made human. Now the moonlight felt heavy, and the fabric clung to her skin, as if it knew what she was going to do. Outside the window, the garden was already crowded with visitors. White chairs arranged in neat rows, peonies shaking in the breeze, and a tense string quartet tuning their instruments. She could hear the buzz of excitement, the rustle of programs, and the clink of champagne flutes laid out too early. Liam was downstairs someplace, presumably pacing in his blue suit and checking his watch every 30 seconds. He texted her at 6:03 a.m., "Can't wait to call you my wife." She gazed at the message until the screen turned black, then typed and deleted a response 3 times. In the end, she sent nothing. Silence had become her native language in the weeks preceding this day. The secret was not a single event, but a gradual deterioration. It began with a name she had buried so deeply that she used to believe it did not exist: Thomas. He had been her first kiss behind the bleachers at 16, her first argument that left her sobbing in her mother's car, and her first love, which felt like drowning in honey. They had imagined a future in the margins of notebooks, drawing floor plans for a house they would never build. Then came the darkness, and everything tilted. She was 17 and had returned home from college for Thanksgiving break. Thomas had been drinking before, but that night the alcohol had rendered him mean. They argued in his pickup vehicle over everything, including her new friends, his jealousy, and the way she smiled at someone else's joke. The dispute became so intense that words were no longer sufficient. His palms slapped her face so hard that her ears rang. She tasted blood. When she tried to open the door, he gripped her wrist so firmly that it left fingerprint-shaped bruises. She kneed him in the crotch before running barefoot through the cornfield behind the diner, the stems piercing her calves. She didn't stop until she reached the interstate, where a truck driver picked her up and took her to the bus terminal without asking any questions. She never filed charges. She told herself it was because she was ashamed that her mother would blame her clothes, laughs, and whole existence. The truth was much simpler. She was scared of what Thomas would do if the public knew. So she swallowed the narrative, relocated 3 states away, and changed her last name on all forms that did not require a birth certificate. She transformed into Hope, who volunteered at the animal shelter, baked immaculate soufflés, and met Liam at a bookstore, convincing him that her silences were mysterious rather than haunted. For 8 years, the past remained dormant, like a seed under concrete. Then, 3 months before the wedding, an envelope came in her flat. There's no return address. Inside was a snapshot of her aged 17, cheeks puffy and eyes wild with dread. Thomas wrote on the back, in jagged handwriting, "I never forgot you, Hopi. Congratulations on your engagement." She burned the photograph in the kitchen sink, but it had already imprinted itself behind her eyelids. More envelopes arrived, always while Liam was at work, slipping under the door like poison. A strand of her own hair from senior year. A mixtape of songs they used to scream along to. A ultrasound image from 9 years ago, with the embryo too small to distinguish features. At 8 weeks, she miscarried alone in a dorm bathroom, gushing into a toilet while her roommate watched Grey's Anatomy in the next room. She never notified anyone, including the clinic nurse who inquired if the father was aware. Particularly not the father. Each delivery chipped away at the life she had created. She began checking the locks 3 times before bedtime. She stopped sleeping. Liam noted the dark circles and how she winced when he touched her shoulder unexpectedly. He asked polite questions, and she told delicate lies. Wedding planning became a show. She smiled at cake samples, nodded at floral arrangements, and calculated how many steps it would take to reach the next exit. The final gift arrived on the wedding day morning. This one was larger and wrapped in brown paper. Inside was her old diary, which she thought she'd discarded. Pages were missing, and new writings in Thomas's handwriting detailed dreams about what he would do if he discovered her again. The final page had a map with red ink markings for the church, reception location, and hotel where she and Liam would spend their wedding night. At the bottom, "We'll see you at 2 o'clock. Do not make me wait." She sat on the bathroom floor in her bridal gown, vomiting until there was nothing left but dry heaves. The makeup artist knocked, worried about the timeline. Hope splashed water on her face and said she was all right.
She was not well.
She was like a house of cards in a windstorm. At 1:47 p.m., the organ began playing. Her father stood outside the door, tuxedo slightly rumpled and eyes wet with pride. She could hear the rustle of guests standing and the creaking of wooden pews. Her bridesmaids, college buddies who knew nothing about her before she turned 20, chuckled in the hallway as they adjusted each other's bouquets. Hope's hands shook so much that she dropped her bouquet twice. The lilies left pollen streaks on her clothes that looked like small bruises. The processional began. She was supposed to wait for her signal, but something in the music made her paralyzed. She crept out the side door, heels sinking into the grass. The garden was a tangle of hedges and fairy lights. She kicked off her shoes, collected the train of her dress, and bolted. She did not notice Thomas until she reached the gravel driveway behind the catering tent. He leaned against a tree, wearing the same leather jacket from high school, which had broken with age. His hair was longer and interspersed with gray, but his smile remained the same, crooked, possessive, and knowing. "Hopi," he exclaimed, as if no time had gone. "You look stunning." She froze. The world shrank to the sound of his words, and the scent of his perfume mingled with cigarette smoke. Behind her, the wedding march grew louder. She could still make it, if she turned back, yelled, and let someone else deal with this beast for once. Instead, she said softly, "How did you discover me?" "Love finds a way." He pushed off the tree and moved closer. "Do you believe you can just erase me? Pretend we didn't have any plans. We were children. You were mine." His hand reached out, fingers locking around her wrist exactly where the bruises had been. Still are. The agony was immediate and familiar. She yanked away, but he held on. From the tent came the clatter of silverware, laughter, and the pop of a champagne cork. So close, yet so remote. "Let go," she stated. "Make me." She kneed him again, this time harder. He doubled over, grunting and relaxing his grasp. She ran. The parking lot was filled with cars frying in the sun. She wasn't sure which one was hers. Liam had driven them that morning. She dashed between SUVs, her heart pounding so hard she could hardly hear the shouting behind her. Thomas's voice was rough with rage. "Hope." She found Liam's car by muscle memory, the blue sedan with the dented fender from too many parallel parking. The spare key remained taped under the wheel well, a nervous habit he developed after locking himself out once. Her fingers scrabbled at the tape, and her nails split. Just as Thomas was rounding the corner, the key came loose. He was limping but determined, his face contorted into something incomprehensible. "You can't leave me again." "I already did." She shoved the key into the lock and wrenched open the door. He lunged. She slammed the door on his arm, once and twice, till he howled and let go. The engine turned over on the third attempt. She threw it into reverse, the tires spitting gravel. In the rear-view mirror, she noticed him standing in the dust cloud, his mouth open in a mute scream. She drove aimlessly, past the city limits and the last gas station, until the road became dirt and the trees closed in. The bridal gown caught on the gear shift, shredding at the seams. Mascara flowed in dark torrents down her cheeks. She didn't stop until the gas gauge hung above empty and her phone, which she'd left in the bridal suite, couldn't receive the deluge of texts she expected. Her grandmother's cabin has been abandoned since she died 5 years ago. Hope kept the key on her, carrying out a sentiment, never thinking she'd need it. The door became stuck, distorted by dampness. The inside smelled of mildew and mouse droppings. She locked the door behind her, slid down the wall, and finally allowed herself to cry. Hours, perhaps even days, passed. She lost track. The dress became her shroud, rigid with sweat and grass stains. She drank tap water with a rusty taste. She did not eat. At night, she waited on the porch, listening to owls and waiting for headlights that never appeared. Thomas had no idea about the cabin. She had never mentioned it, not even in the diary he stole. On the third day, there was a knock. She held her breath. Hope. Liam asked, his voice hoarse from shouting her name across half the state. Are you in there? She opened the door slightly. He appeared to have not slept, with a rumpled suit, an askew tie, and red-rimmed eyes. Behind him, police cruisers idled on the dirt drive, their lights illuminating the trees blue and red. I'm sorry, she replied. She could only think of one thing to say. He pushed the door open, went inside, and took her into his arms. The dress ripped farther at the shoulder. You're safe now. She wanted to trust him. But safety was a fantasy she'd outgrown. They apprehended Thomas 2 towns away, intoxicated in a motel room with her missing diary pages spread across the bed. He had a warrant for breaking a restraining order filed by a girlfriend years after Hope had departed. The sonogram was a forgery, printed from the internet. The miscarriage was true, but the rest was staged, a desperate attempt to resurrect a story that ended the night she rushed through the field. Liam forgives her for running. He explained that he understood how terror could cause you to forget who you were. They postponed the wedding, relocated to a new city, and changed their numbers. Hope began treatment and learned terms like trauma bonding and hypervigilance. She threw away the shoebox containing love messages. Certain memories were best burnt. But other nights, she wakes up searching for a key under a wheel well that no longer exists. She still inspects the locks 3 times. She still flinches when Liam unexpectedly touches her shoulder, but he pretends not to notice. The dress rests in the back of a wardrobe in a garment bag, the ivory silk yellowing with age and sadness. She will never wear it again, yet she can't bring herself to discard it. Love, she discovered, is not measured in simple things. It is measured by the difference between what you recall and what you can forgive, both in others and in yourself. Some secrets do not harm you. They only change the shape of the cage you learn to live in. Years later, on the anniversary of her run, Hope plants peonies in the backyard of their new home. Liam watered them as she watched from the porch, coffee cooling in her hands. The flowers blossom blood red, with soft petals that represent forgiveness, which she is still learning to accept. When the wind blows through them, they tremble just as they did on her almost wedding day. She no longer believes in the happiest days. She believes in the ones that follow. The quiet mornings when the coffee is strong enough, when the messages on the mirror say, I'm still here, when the past remains buried beneath concrete and new roots emerge nevertheless. It's not the ending she wanted, but it's the one she got. The night was heavy with rain, the kind that whispered secrets on the windows and made even the bravest hearts nervous. Luna sat alone in her cage, peering out the thin bars at the shadowy passage beyond. It had been 3 days after the arrest, 3 days of questions, whispers, and stillness. She had no idea who had turned her in. All she knew was that something far greater than she could comprehend was at play. She drew her knees to her breast, trying to recall the last time she had slept. Every sound in the cell, the clanging of distant doors, guards' heavy feet, the moaning wind, combined to create a horrible symphony that made her want to scream. She was not supposed to be here. She had not done anything wrong. But in Los Angeles, innocence was not always sufficient. Her thoughts kept returning to the night of the gala at Forrester Creations. Lights, laughing, and champagne. Everything was perfect until it wasn't. Until someone planted the flash disk in her purse. Until police arrived. Until she saw RJ's face, puzzled, afraid, and powerless as they carried her away in handcuffs. She could still hear his words in her head. "Luna, I'll repair it. I promise." But she had not heard from him since. The lock on her cell door clicked, snapping her out of her reverie. A shadow appeared, tall, deliberate, and calm. Not one of the regular guards. This man had a dark coat, his hair was wet from the rain, and his eyes were keen and unreadable. "Luna Nozawa?" he asked softly. She paused. "Who is asking?" He took a step closer, and the flickering light illuminated the wrinkles on his face. Gorgeous but tired, the type of face that had seen too many truths and too few happy endings. "My name's Marcus Hale," he said. Luna blinked. "I'm here to get you out. My lawyer didn't mention anything about." "I'm not your lawyer," he said quietly. "I'm your only chance." She looked at him. There was something about his voice, confident, steady, but tinged with menace, that convinced her he wasn't lying. Still, she couldn't shake the trembling in her voice. "Why are you assisting me?" He held her stare for a long time before responding. "Because someone asked me to." He did not respond. Instead, he pulled a folded sheet from his coat pocket. "You have been given temporary release pending further inquiry." Luna muttered, "That is impossible. It was approved 20 minutes ago." Marcus grinned faintly. "My hearing isn't for another week. The system moves faster when you know which strings to pull." Before she could react, he motioned to the guard down the hall. The jail door creaked open. Luna stepped out hesitantly, partly anticipating a terrible prank. But it wasn't. The corridor stretched ahead of her, empty and echoing. As they went, she cast a sideways peek at him. "You claimed someone sent you. Was it RJ?" Marcus did not break stride.
No.
"Then who?" He moved his head slightly, his face unreadable. "Let's just say they believe you deserve a second opportunity. But if you want to remain free, you must believe me." Outside, the rain had subsided into a mist that shimmered beneath the streetlights. Marcus directed her towards a black automobile parked across the street. When he opened the door, Luna paused. "This feels wrong," she mumbled. "So, did being locked up for something you didn't do," he told me. "Get in." She climbed into the passenger seat, her heart racing. The automobile smelled softly, like leather and rain. Marcus started the motor, and they drove away from the station, disappearing into the black veins of the city. They did not speak for a long time. The streets blurred together, with neon lights mirrored in puddles and the buzz of traffic rising and falling. Luna's thoughts raced. Finally, she added, "You might be anyone. You may be the one who set me up." Marcus laughed quietly. "If I wanted you gone, I wouldn't have pulled you out. So, what do you want?" "To find out who set you up." Luna turned to face him, scrutinizing his expression. "Why should you care?" He hesitated, then replied, "Because the people who framed you are the same ones who wrecked my life 5 years ago." The air between them tightened. She didn't ask for specifics. She could see the agony in his eyes, the type that didn't go away with time. "Then we're both victims," she added softly. He looked at her with something like admiration in his eyes. "No," he replied. "We're survivors." They traveled to an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. It was silent inside, except for the drip of water from a leaking pipe. A table in the center was covered in images, data, and maps, forming a conspiratorial web so complex that Luna's stomach turned. Marcus motioned her to sit. "You were accused of stealing confidential designs from Forrester. However, all of the evidence, including the flash drive and security footage, was faked. Whoever did this knew what they were doing.